Ladies and gentlemen, there is something powerful happening in the spirit realm when God begins to move on behalf of his chosen and blessed woman. She may not see it with her natural eyes, but the evidence is all around her. Heaven is orchestrating something far greater than she imagined. God does not announce surprises. He prepares them in secret and he reveals them in time. When God is up to something, he often disguises it in what looks like confusion, silence, and delay. There comes a moment when a woman's world begins to shift. Suddenly, the things that once made sense no longer do. The job she loved now feels empty. The friends she trusted begin to fade. The routine that brought comfort now feels like a burden. This is not punishment, it's preparation. God disrupts what is familiar to make room for what is divine. The disruption is a sign. It is the breaking of the old wineskin so that new wine can be poured in. When God is preparing a surprise, he starts by shaking the foundations. And in that shaking, there will be silence. You will pray and not hear a word. You will fast and not feel the fire. But silence is not absence. Silence is strategy. When a teacher is giving a test, they do not speak. Heaven is silent. Not because you are forgotten, but because your destiny is being written behind the scenes. God does his best work in the quiet. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, favor begins to follow you. Not in the places you expected, but in places where you were never qualified. That is how God reveals his hand. He takes the unlikely and makes it undeniable. You will find yourself promoted in places where others thought you would be rejected. That is the fingerprint of God. That is the mark of divine orchestration. But before the revelation, there is often isolation. You would be separated from the familiar, not because you are unwanted, but because God is hiding you. He is pulling you away from noise so that he can prepare you without interference. Don't curse the solitude. It is sacred. Some of the greatest preparations happen in private. The womb is silent before the baby cries. The seed grows underground before it breaks the surface. So it is with your destiny. In that quiet place, you will begin to feel something deeper. Your spirit will become sensitive. You will hear whispers that others cannot discern. You will sense shifts that others ignore. That is the Spirit of God awakening you. You are no longer reacting. You are responding. You are no longer wandering. You are discerning. God sharpens the ears of his chosen women because what he's about to reveal requires precision and obedience. And just when it seems like the pressure is too much, when the trials intensify and your faith is tested, you must remember the test always comes before the testimony. The fire is not to destroy you, it is to refine you. The resistance is not to stop you, it is to strengthen your spiritual muscles. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, it is all part of the process. The pain is the prophecy. But then it happens without warning, without explanation, peace shows up. Not the kind of peace that the world gives, but the kind that makes no sense. Peace in the middle of unanswered questions. Peace when nothing has changed, but everything feels aligned. That peace is a sign that heaven has settled it. The preparation is complete. The surprise is near. God hides his greatest gifts in the most unlikely vessels. And when it is time, he unwraps his promise before the eyes of those who doubted it. You are that vessel. You are that woman. The surprise is not random. It is reserved. You have been chosen not because of perfection, but because of purpose. So lift your head, keep your posture. Your Father is about to reveal what he's been preparing all along. When God begins to prepare something extraordinary for his chosen and blessed woman, one of the first signs is divine disruption. It is when everything you once depended on starts to shift. The routines you loved suddenly feel restrictive. The places that once gave you joy now feel empty. The people you trusted begin to disappear without explanation. It is as if the ground beneath you is moving, but you can't see where it's leading. This is not chaos, this is construction. God disrupts comfort zones to make room for divine elevation. He does not ask permission to rearrange your life when he is preparing you for something greater. He steps in and shifts what must be shifted, even if it breaks your heart in the process. Divine disruption is uncomfortable because it removes what is familiar. It shakes what you've built, not to destroy you, but to reassign your focus. Often the plans we hold on to the tightest are the ones that are blocking what God wants to release. So he intervenes. He allows certain things to fall apart so that something better can be revealed. That relationship ends. That opportunity slips away. That door closes. And while it may feel like loss, in heaven, it is a redirection. God does not subtract unless he plans to multiply. But before he multiplies, he must first make space. And that space is made through disruption. You may be tempted to cling to the old. You may want to repair what God is intentionally removing. But the longer you hold on to what God has already rejected, the more delayed your destiny becomes. Trust the disruption. It is not rejection, it is repositioning. It is the sign that you are no longer where you used to be, and you are being prepared for where you were always meant to go. There comes a season in every chosen woman's life when heaven goes quiet. You pray, but the answers don't come. You worship, but you don't feel what you used to feel. You seek God with all your heart, but there's no clear direction, no confirmation, no open door. It's as if the heavens are shut and your cries echo back without response. This silence can feel like abandonment, but in truth, it is divine strategy. When heaven goes quiet, it is not because God has left. It is because he is working in ways that do not require your understanding, only your trust. God's silence is never empty. It is full of intention. Just like a master artist steps back from the canvas before the final stroke, God steps into silence to allow his masterpiece to unfold. In moments of silence, God is testing the maturity of your faith. Can you trust him when he doesn't speak? Can you obey when there's no confirmation? Can you wait without explanation? Silence is not punishment. It is preparation. It separates those who seek feelings from those who live by faith. When God is silent, he is building endurance, character, and deep spiritual insight that cannot be developed in noise. Many times, silence precedes revelation. Before the birth of something divine, heaven grows quiet. Just as a baby develops in the silence of the womb, your next season is forming in the quiet of God's presence. The silence is holy. It is sacred space where God is weaving details behind the curtain of your life. He is aligning hearts, shifting people, orchestrating divine meetings, and preparing doors that no man can shut. Your responsibility is to remain still, stay faithful, and continue to listen, not with your ears, but with your spirit. The silence is not the end. It's the signal that something supernatural is about to begin. When God begins to prepare a surprise for his chosen and blessed woman, one of the most telling signs is the manifestation of uncommon favor in unlikely places. It's when doors open that you didn't even knock on. It's when people who don't know your name begin to speak in your favor. It's when you step into environments where you're not supposed to belong, yet you're embraced, elevated, and honored. This kind of favor cannot be explained by resumes, qualifications, or connections. It is divine. It is the fingerprint of God moving through systems, structures, and people on your behalf. Uncommon favor is when the rules are bent to make room for your destiny. It's when your presence is enough to shift atmospheres and attract resources. And what's most remarkable is that this favor shows up in places where you were least expecting it. Not in the spaces you thought were designed for you, but in rooms that were never on your radar. God uses the unlikely so that no man can take credit for what he's about to do. He positions you in places that don't make sense so that the testimony will bring glory only to him. This kind of favor is a sign that your name is being mentioned in rooms you've never entered. People are being stirred in their spirits to bless you, support you, and make space for you. And it's not because of who you know, but because of who you are in him. Heaven authorizes movements on earth, and you begin to walk in a grace that cannot be earned. This is not ordinary, it is orchestrated. You'll find yourself promoted where others were overlooked. You'll receive answers before you ask. You'll be remembered when you thought you were forgotten. That is the power of divine favor in motion. One of the most misunderstood seasons in the life of a chosen and blessed woman is isolation. When God is preparing to elevate you, he often begins by pulling you away from people, away from noise, away from distractions. It feels like separation, but in truth, it is sanctification. God removes you from the familiar because he's about to reveal something unfamiliar. Isolation is not a sign that you are forgotten. It's a sign that you are being hidden for a higher purpose. When God isolates you, it is never to harm you. It is to prepare you. In the secret place, he begins to strip away every crutch, every unnecessary relationship, every comfort that could compete with his voice. He silences the crowd so you can hear the whisper. He blocks out the opinions of others so you can recognize his instruction. And it's in that solitude that your identity becomes clear, your assignment becomes sharper, and your character begins to align with your calling. Every great move of God is preceded by a period of isolation. Before Joseph ruled, he was hidden in a prison. Before Moses led, he was hidden in the desert. Before Jesus performed miracles, he was led into the wilderness. The pattern is clear. Elevation is always birthed through isolation. And if you're in that season now, don't resist it. Embrace it. What looks like loneliness is actually divine positioning. You are not being punished. You are being processed. In isolation, God gives revelation. He deposits dreams that would have been contaminated by the crowd. He strengthens your spirit, sharpens your discernment, and matures your faith. And when the time is right, he brings you out, not the same, but transformed. The woman who emerges from isolation is not the woman who entered. She is refined, focused, and ready to reign. When God is preparing a divine surprise for his chosen and blessed woman, one of the undeniable signs is a deepening of spiritual sensitivity. It's when your spirit becomes alert in a way it never was before. You begin to discern things that others miss. You sense shifts in the atmosphere. You feel when to move, when to pause, when to speak, and when to be silent, not because of logic, but because your spirit is in tune with heaven. This heightened awareness is not accidental. It is the result of God's Spirit awakening your inner ears and sharpening your spiritual perception for what is about to unfold. You find yourself drawn to prayer without effort. You wake up in the middle of the night with a burden that doesn't come from you, it comes from him. Scriptures come alive as if God is speaking directly to you. You begin to recognize patterns, not in the physical realm, but in the spiritual. People's words carry different weight. Conversations reveal more than what is said. You're no longer moving through life with your eyes alone. You're now led by insight from above. This spiritual sensitivity is necessary because what God is about to do in your life will require precision. Elevation without discernment is dangerous. So God takes time to fine-tune your spiritual senses. He teaches you how to distinguish his voice from your emotions. He trains you to follow peace and not pressure. You begin to understand that just because something looks good doesn't mean it's from God. You stop chasing opportunities and start recognizing divine assignments. The world may not understand this shift in you. They may call you distant or different, but you are not disconnected. You are deeply connected to something they cannot see. God is aligning your spirit with your destiny. You are being calibrated for something sacred, and that sensitivity is a signal. You are closer than you think. Before every great testimony in the life of a chosen and blessed woman, there is always a test. This is not a coincidence. It is a divine principle. God never releases promotion without first proving character. The test is the furnace where faith is purified, where motives are exposed, and where obedience is refined. It comes suddenly and often unexpectedly. It challenges your patience, your endurance, your faith, and your trust. It may feel like an attack, but it is an assessment. Heaven is evaluating your readiness for what has already been prepared for you. This test is not about what you can say in public. It's about how you live in private. Will you still worship when there is no breakthrough? Will you still obey when the path is unclear? Will you still walk in integrity when no one is watching? These are the questions that are answered in the testing season. And make no mistake, this test is not meant to break you. It's designed to build you. It's the pressure that turns coal into diamonds, the fire that turns raw gold into refined treasure. You will face disappointment. People will misunderstand you. Doors will close that seemed certain. The enemy will whisper lies, and your emotions will try to pull you away from your convictions. But in the midst of all of it, God is watching your response. Not your perfection, but your posture. Will you kneel when you don't understand? Will you praise even when it hurts? Will you choose faith over fear? What feels like a delay is often divine strategy. God allows the test to come before the testimony so that when the promise manifests, you won't just receive it, you'll be able to sustain it. The testing season is proof that something greater is on the horizon. It is the final stretch before the surprise is revealed. Pass the test and the testimony will speak for itself. There is a moment in the journey of a chosen and blessed woman when everything around her seems to be pressing in, decisions to make, battles to fight, questions without answers, and situations beyond her control. The weight is real, the pressure is intense, and yet suddenly, without warning, peace descends. Not the kind of peace that the world gives, temporary, shallow, and circumstantial, but a deep, unshakable calm that defies understanding. This peace does not ignore the storm. It stands firm in the middle of it. It is a divine signal that heaven has taken control of the situation. The sudden peace is not born from things getting easier. It comes when your spirit yields to the authority of God's plan. It is the result of a quiet surrender, a holy resignation that says, Lord, I trust you even here. When everything says you should be falling apart, you find yourself standing still. When your mind wants to panic, your heart remains anchored. This is not natural strength. It is supernatural assurance. It is the Spirit of God bearing witness within you that the pressure will not crush you and the fire will not burn you. You are being held. This peace is the final confirmation that you have crossed over from striving to trusting. It's not a feeling, it's a posture. It is the place where fear loses its voice and faith takes over the conversation. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently, because your spirit knows something your eyes cannot yet see. God has already settled it. The pressure that once overwhelmed you now becomes the evidence that you are on the brink of something divine. The peace is not the absence of trouble, it is the presence of God. And when that peace rests on you, it is the clearest sign that the promise is closer than ever. So if you find yourself walking through divine disruptions, wrestling with heaven's silence, or standing in unfamiliar places covered in unexpected favor, do not fear if isolation has become your teacher, if your spirit is becoming more sensitive, if your faith is being tested, or if peace has wrapped around you like a blanket in the middle of a storm. Rejoice. These are not random experiences. These are prophetic signs. They are heaven's whispers that God is preparing something you have not imagined, something eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard, and minds haven't conceived, but your spirit knows it's near. You are not being overlooked. You are being positioned. You are not being punished. You are being trusted. And when God trusts you with preparation, it means He's about to trust you with manifestation. What He is preparing for you is not common. Because you are not common. You are chosen. You are set apart. And the delay, the discomfort, the silence, the test, it's all evidence that a divine surprise is being wrapped in glory. And when it arrives, it will exceed every prayer, every tear, and every hope you've carried in your heart. Stand still. Stay ready. Heaven is about to interrupt your life with glory.